Good evening to all the industry leaders who have joined us for this seminar, and welcome to all the audience which is here. The title today for our discussion is Aesthetics or Functionality, Can We Have It All? Our home is our sanctuary of love, laughs and memories, but it's also our safe haven. So our aspirations have no dilemmas. The dilemmas are in the available choices that are there in front of us in the market. What is beautiful is not safe. What is safe is not beautiful. And if it is both, it is expensive. But a window is only 3 to 4% of our home's value. Our intention in the discussion today is to have it all. But how do we make it happen? Here are some thoughts for the panel to consider as they resolve the dilemma. India is now the fourth largest cyclone-prone country in the world. But why are consumers not aware of the fundamental safety requirements of a window to protect them against wind, water, and air? What can industry leaders do about it? India is the largest building and construction market in the world. There is a lot of scope and potential for windows in India, more than the US and the Europe. Why are there so few technically qualified professionals in the fenestration industry? Is fenestration given adequate focus in the architectural syllabus of the country? Windows can drive the solar power needs of an entire nation. These technologies are now available globally. The innovation in this industry has lagged other product categories. Therefore, consumer confidence is low. What can the industry do to step up the technology and product capabilities to bring the best to the Indian consumer? The Aditya Birla Group's vision is to be big in your life. Hindalco's purpose is to make the world greener, stronger, and smarter. And Eternia's mission is to create a happy union of spaces. We are committed to bring the best technology and products globally available to serve every Indian consumer. Luxury, economy, and affordable. We can have it all. Thank you once again for joining us. Have a great session, and I really look forward to meeting all of you.
Season's greetings, one and all. We welcome you to this episode of iDAC Nexus webinars in collaboration with Eternia, Hindalco. Our subject this evening is aesthetics versus functionality. Can you have it all? Functionality and aesthetics go hand in hand. Not all choices, however, satiate both demands. The discussion will elaborate the points to consider of which supersedes the other and how windows create a safer space for families to thrive. Our fabulous moderator this evening is architect Carl Basania of Talati and Partners, who will steer the discussion to a fun and enticing conversation. Carl has designed projects ranging from private homes to high-rise towers to mixed-use developments. He is a versatile, detail-oriented, and innovative architect with excellent design sensibilities and team management skills. He brings to the table over 18 years of experience in heading architecture and interior design projects of varying styles, scales, and purposes. Over to you, Carl.
Right, so good evening. Hi, everyone. Good evening. I'd like to welcome our esteemed panelists for this discussion here. All smiley faces, well, almost. Well, okay, now I see all smiley faces, yes. So I have here with me, we have architect Rajiv Khushalani from Khushalani Associates. So he is an architect, urban designer, founder of Khushalani Associates. Before establishing the own practice in 2010, he has studied in Mumbai and in London and has also worked in various prestigious offices. The biggest testimony to the fact is his lasting relationship with large number of repeat clients, something that we all want. So we then have architect Nishita Kamdar with us from studio, Nishita Kamdar. So her studio is engaged in both architectural as well as interior design projects. She enjoys doing holiday homes, standalone architectural projects, residential interiors, as well as commercial spaces. Along with her practice, she is also a founding partner at POD Pieces of Desire, which caters to bespoke furniture pieces. We then have architect Apurva Shroff from Lyth. Apurva is India's most promising architects with over 20 years of work and project experience across US and Asia. Forbes India has described her work as one of a kind. I was actually going to read has described her as one of a kind, but either ways, it works well. And so, yeah, and after completing a master's in architecture from the University of California, she's returned to India in 2006. Welcome back. And over the years, she has designed prominent office spaces and homes for marquee clients across India, and then founded Lyth in Jan 2022. Lastly, we have Ms. Nehal Bazari, Head Retail and Marketing at Hindalco, Eternia. She's nicely waving out. Yes, hello. Nehal started a career in strategy consulting with organizations like Avalon Consulting and Ernst & Young, followed by a stint in Hindalco's strategy team. Her passion for creating businesses in India and making a life in home space inspired her to join Hindalco's venture, Eternia Windows, in 2020. In the last 3 years, she has worked on product development, then supply chain, and now leading the retail and marketing. You all can all pay me my dues for the nice introduction that I've given you all, GPay. So yes, welcome all of you all. And as I mentioned earlier, being a moderator is very nice. I'm totally chilled out. I just have to shoot questions at you all and then, have fun in listening to them. So shall we just jump into the questions since we are talking about windows per se? Now, I personally, as an architect, I do a lot of architecture, very little interiors as of now. Mainly my forte is architecture from bungalows to super tall buildings. And for us, when we do pure architecture, it's reti, sand, cement. And over and above, if there is any aesthetic angle that comes into play, it's the facade. And in that, you have your solid surfaces, which could be cladded or painted or whatever. And then you have your ventilated surfaces, which are your windows. Now, of course, when it comes to projects that we do, windows generally are driven more by cost, because usually there's some developer involved and cost really plays an important factor. However, today's topic, we are going to focus more on the retail aspect of windows, especially when it comes to standalone homes, bungalows, villas, mansions, and so on, and super luxury homes specifically, which all of y'all are pretty good at doing, executing and designing and executing. So we'll just jump straight into the questions. So brace yourselves. It's not going to be bumpy. What are the considerations for selecting a window type for high-end villas? Now, this question generally, since it's to do with the selection process, I'm going to keep it open for the three architects to answer. Apurva, Nishita, Rajiv, whenever you can, either of you all can take it away.
Yeah, so I could start. I think the criteria for selecting a window, the first one, especially when you're speaking of architectural projects, would probably be the geographical location, depending on, what the weather is, how harsh the climate is, how strong the rains are. And that would be number one. And considering how sleek the sections that we have out there today, the options are numerous, and I think that would be one of the prime factors, that would go into selecting a window for a high-end project for me. There are a couple of more, but I'll let the others take it and then come back if I think of anything more.
Sure. Nishita?
Right. So I think selecting a window is as good as selecting half the facade or half the finish of your entire kind of architectural project. If brick and mortar is one half, like window is the other half of the building. And I think for me, what kind of takes precedence is definitely how sleek the entire window structure is. In terms of functions, of course, it is one of the most key functional pieces because it forms the security layer of your house as well. So that, of course, being number one, and then post that, it would be the aesthetics of the window.
Okay, Rajiv, take it away.
Okay, so for me, since the other two have already spoken about minimal sections, of course, that's a very, very important criteria as of today. Also, we've been looking at always a seamless inside-outside connection and how the track works in terms of connecting the interiors to the outdoors, since we are talking about private homes. Also, one other criteria nowadays in private homes is you usually have ceilings that go beyond your typical 10, 12 feet. They go beyond 14, 16. And you're also looking at windows that can cater to these kind of heights. So, I mean, that's another criteria. Apart from these, because you have like the other two also pointed out, so much glass in your facades, you are looking at some level of, let's say, noise insulation and noise reduction and thermal insulation in your facades. So yeah, I think these are the criteria we're constantly looking at when we look at our products.
Okay, so just a question pertaining to this one here for Rajiv you. So when we talk about high-end villas and regular villas, let's call them regular villas, does the selection criteria change?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if there's a regular villa that we typically do first homes. We don't do second homes as such. But I would assume that the selection, I mean, price would, of course, be a big criteria in, let's say, a first and second home and high-end and non-high-end villa or any kind of residential project. Like I said, you know, your typical heights that go beyond. So you're looking at windows that can, so bigger the window shutter, the more is the weight. And if you're looking at that kind of weight, you're looking at the hardware that can support that kind of weight. So that kind of zeroes you down to only certain vendors that can cater to, you know, seamlessly cater to that kind of requirement for high-end villas.
Right. Okay, great. Thank you. We'll move on to the next question here. So what are the components that define a perfect window? I'll actually let Nehal take this one. Nehal, if you can tell us what are the components that define a perfect window? And I'm going to ask that question to one of the architects as well, because we need to understand what is the definition of a perfect window from a vendor's perspective and from an architect's perspective.
Sure.
So yeah, Nehal.
Yeah. So, you know, in our view, material is firstly the most important component we feel of a window. You know, there are various materials available today: wood, UPVC, aluminium, steel. So, you know, and each of them come up with their unique strengths and, you know, certain weaknesses. So that's important if you're looking for, you know, very sleek designs. You know, everybody spoke about sleek design. So aluminium plays a very important role there because aluminium is light yet strong. So you're able to have sleek windows. You know, then when we're looking for big size windows, especially in villas, again, you know, the strength of the window matters. So aluminium plays a key role there. India, of course, as a country, loves wood. So, you know, we still see a lot of wood in windows, but most of the other materials also have the option of wood finish now, where you can have the, you know, look and feel of wood without having some of the, you know, troubles associated with wood. So material is the most important component. Second would be the hardware, because all the functionality of the window, you know, whether it is protecting the house from water, protecting it from, you know, dust coming in, sound coming in, all of that gets determined using the hardware. So the quality of the hardware, its ability to bear the weight of the glass and the full window, ability to move it smoothly makes a big difference. And yes, you know, and then after that you have glass coming in, because, you know, in a window that does occupy a significant surface area. So sound gets impacted significantly by glass. as well as a structural performance, against a cyclone. So there also glass plays a key role. So yeah, these are the important components. But finally, however good they are, if a window is not installed well, we have seen none of them matter. So it's the guy who is putting the window in the house is, I think, the most important person in the whole journey.
All right. And would anyone else, so Rajiv, how about you? I don't mean to be partial, but Rajiv, would you want to give your 2 bits on this as well?
Yeah, I kind of agree with Nehal. Hardware is kind of key. You don't want your windows to fail in about 2-3 years. So hardware is also key, and also the extrusion, like she said. You don't want your windows to warp, especially if they are really large. You want them to perform well over years, so that your clients don't come back to you complaining. So yes, completely agree with Nehal there.
At the end of the day, if a product doesn't work, it's the architect who gets a call.
Yeah.
The vendors are nicely sleeping, and the architects have to do the firefighting.
Yeah.
All right. So now a very important factor here, that's aesthetic versus the functionality. Which are the factors to compromise on and why? I know now, obviously, diplomatically, I'll say neither of them, but then of course, there is a time where one supersedes the other, right? We've all been through that. So aesthetic versus functionality, which factors should you compromise on, and of course, why? I'll let the two architect ladies take this one.
Right. So I think, like you said, it's very difficult to choose what wins over the other. But I think hands down, it's the aesthetics that have to kind of take a back seat when it comes to the functionality of a window, because you can't take take the basic function that it's set out to do out of its scope of work. And normally, what ends up happening is a lot of times, we always aspire to see very sleek section, the very clear picturesque view and things like that. And that's not, honestly what we get. There are also times when I don't want to see so many mullions in the middle, but because of the width to the height ratio, I have to have X number of shutters. And then that means that I start seeing like more verticals in the middle. But then I think these are things that you have to kind of just, take it with a pinch of salt, and B, also educate the client on why certain things are, there are certain kind of hard steps that you need to take in order to get the best out of the window that let's not call it the window, but the best out of the protective layer of your house that you've, set out to kind of achieve. And, a lot of times, we've also seen clients who kind of, force us to just do a very kind of assembled window system, which is when this takes a big, it kind of, it's an absolute kick on the butt for them, because what ends up happening is, window systems are designed as an integrated system altogether. And when you start assembling them, loosely, which we've seen in the open market. We've very clearly seen that in the open market, it won't kind of set out to do what it's supposed to do. So that means it's not serving its function. And that's because very key components are missing out of that. And those key components are necessarily what is actually adding to the cost of the window, but are very crucial to kind of, have. Let's take, for example, anti-rattlers, which it's something that absolutely annoys me, when a window starts creaking because of wind, but it's something that is so crucial, and it takes clients time, to understand why it's needed. And then the aesthetic of a handle, it's something we all cringe, when we see window handles, but it's again functionality over aesthetics for that one for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Apurva, I would urge you, she's already laughing. I would urge you to talk about aesthetic. There will be a good debate.
I completely second that. No matter how pretty a window looks, if it can't keep the elements of water and air and noise out, then it completely fails its purpose. So, you may install it and take a photograph for Instagram with it, but after that, you can be sure to be kicked on your butt by the client. So yes, I'm sorry, I cannot support aesthetics here.
Yeah. And the architect is the one who gets kicked on the butt. Let's note that.
And like you
Exactly.
stated, nobody wants clients calling them up after the project is over.
I've learned the hard way. Seriously, it's like I would just forget about the aesthetics and go with the functionality first.
Correct. So sahi jawab in that case for both of y'all. Full marks to both of y'all.
Thank you.
Okay, so moving on. So what are the challenges faced in suggesting and installing a good quality window as per the design parameters? Rajiv?
So, like we discussed earlier, the challenges in suggesting a window is, of course, the price. With the commodity prices, hitting the roof. Anyways, the pricing of basic windows don't help. And also to educate the client that why, so window technology has really improved in the last 5 years. We've seen a major shift in the kind of windows we've been using and suggesting. So it's very difficult to educate a client of why he's paying so much more as to what he should have, let's say 2 years ago even. That is one problem in suggesting windows constantly that we face as a practice. And when it comes to installation, I think before installing a window, a client needs to really hire a very good civil contractor, because no matter how good your window system is, if your track is not on a zero level, the window is not going to work, even if you put the best rollers in the world. So I mean, you need to really make sure that windows are the pre-installation to a window is done right. The openings are at right angles and perfect zero levels. So I think that's a very, very important thing before installation that needs to be taken care of.
Okay. Apurva?
The only other thing I would add is, I mean, the difficulties are numerous. I mean, especially if it's being installed at a height, or, the wind load calculations that need to be taken into consideration, and the monsoons, all of that. But I think one important factor is the challenge of actually keeping that window protected after it's installed as well. There are numerous situations where you've installed the best window, when the plastic comes off, it's all scratched, right? And so I think that's a huge factor and difficulty in protecting what we have installed as well, that we need to take into consideration.
Okay, great. All right, Nehal, this one's for you. A mandatory design element such as a window, I mean, it is mandatory, right? Can it contribute to the overall well-being for your home? How would you relate the overall well-being to a window?
No, certainly. So, our brand is also, does not stand for engineering or, design or an element. Our brand stands for happy union of spaces. So we've tried to build something which is about integrating external and internal spaces, because there's a lot in the external environment which we love, we want to interact with. And, but at the same time, there are things we want to keep out. And similarly, sometimes we just want a sanctuary inside our house and, just block out the external world. So window can play all of these roles, and that is what contributes to your, complete well-being. So when you want fresh air, it's the only way to get that. And when you just want complete peace and quiet and no disturbance, no light, nothing, and, then that is what the window can do for you. So, I mean, we always, window is something which is almost always ignored because it's taken for granted. It's always there. It's, it's part of all our lives. But it actually contributes in various ways. And, and then more technically looking at it also, good sleep, for good sleep, low noise is required. And, that is how window can contribute. Natural light is very important for, for our eyes, for our well-being. So that's again how windows contribute. So yeah, I mean, both emotionally, mentally, spiritually, and physically, all four, on all four wheels, windows can help our well-being.
Okay. Nishita, would you like to add on to that? Or you can say ditto.
No, absolutely. But I mean, she's not said any wrong points for me to not agree. But yeah, like the window is basically the eyes of the house, So be it, you wanting to look out at the world from your little shell to snooping at the neighbor's house, or getting your sunlight in, your ventilation, air, all of that in. I think it's just the staples of life. So I think, it's all of that kind of encompasses the well-being.
Okay, great. So now contributions of windows to an economical and sustainable lifestyle. Now we are all talking about a lot of sustainability and green buildings and whatnot. However, that doesn't, so far I've not really experienced that being done for standalone homes. I mean, when we talk about projects, yes, of course, the whole green building factor comes into play nowadays. But for homes, not so much. So, however, what would be the contribution of windows for a sustainable lifestyle and an economical lifestyle? Nehal, if you can just throw some light on that.
Yes. So sustainability definitely, while we are looking at green building norms for big projects, individuals are becoming more conscious of the environment, because we got to leave a place to live for our future generations. Right. So everybody has become more conscious, and that is why choice of the right sustainable material becomes very important. Because windows have a certain life, some 10 years, some 20 years. And after that, if you have a material which can be reused after that, it makes a difference. So recyclable material is very important when it comes to windows. Also, so that's again more long term, but when you look at economical, for an individual house, I think electricity bill coming out of AC becomes a very important factor, because most of our houses are running on air conditioning all the time. And with big windows, the leakage of energy is also maximum. So windows, which helps in, protecting the AC air going out, from reducing the heat transmission, energy transmission between internal and external, can again help in, energy saving, and does a more economical as well as sustainable lifestyle.
Okay, and Apurva, what do you feel about that?
No, I think she's covered all the points with that, so nothing further to add. But I am curious, are there windows that are recyclable? I wasn't even aware that there were windows that are made out of recyclable material.
Yeah, so like aluminium is 100% recyclable, and Hindalco is the largest recycler of aluminium in the world. So
glass is also.
Glass is also recyclable to quite an extent. Lot of the the other hardware components also nowadays, majority of them are used of recyclable plastic as well. So a lot of companies are trying to include all recyclable part. The beauty with aluminium is, it's like gold. You exclude the making charges, and 20 years later you can sell it for the running price in the market that time.
Okay.
So, yeah.
All right. So, Nishita, you had mentioned something about glass windows, which are important for security as well.
Yeah.
So this question is actually for all the architects here. What do you do when you have this, you're doing a bungalow and there's these phenomenal views, or your internal landscape is so good, you want a large window, you are coming out to a large, beautiful deck, and the client then tells you, okay, par security grill to chahiye. So what happens then? How do you all tackle that?
So we had
open for anyone.
Stumped.
Yeah, so we had this.
So when she said security, I quickly made the note of it that I have to ask this.
No, so
how do you all tackle security? And in fact, even Nehal can tell us if there are ways where Hindalco is taking steps to integrate some good grill designs within the system, or do you do something collapsible? How do you do it? Rajiv, what are your thoughts?
So we had this issue where a client, we were using a lot of glass in a bungalow with deep overhangs. The client, once the house was shaping up, the client visited and he said, "Okay, what about security?" And at that point in time, we had to figure out different ways in kind of securing his premises. right from his boundary wall and use laser beams and things like that, and convince him that these things work. You don't need grills. That's only psychological. So we kind of threw that at him, and it kind of worked. But yeah, I mean, I'd love to know if there's a solution, because at that point in time, we looked very hard, but we had a lot of corner windows. So a lot of these solutions work when you don't have the corner opening. But when the moment you have a corner opening, these fall flat. So I'd love to know if you guys.
But the listeners would love to know, what did you do with that finally? How did you solve that? Maybe it's a learning curve for us.
Didn't his client line that broke because he got robbed?
Or maybe he just
hasn't got robbed.
Labor is cheap.
So what we did in one of the projects is we had a full 100 feet long just glass opening, and we used a PVB laminated glass, which is basically like a thin resin sheet in the middle, sandwiched between two glasses, and it's as good as your bulletproof glass. And that really worked very well for the client, because we did a test on site where we hammered the glass almost 150 times. And then it finally starts shattering, but still doesn't fall. The kind of resin holds the glass together. It doesn't completely collapse down. So that was one that really worked for us. Another one that really worked for us was doing these Georgian bar windows now, which are quite popular, which is basically integrating a grill look with a window. And that means that the opening size becomes much more smaller for somebody to break through and come in. So you can always experiment with the size of the grid that you create with the Georgian bars. So yeah, both these have worked very well for us so far. And we've managed to escape the collapsible grill route.
A simple way that we took care of it was we got sensor lights installed around, the area that we were protecting. So the minute there was movement, the light would come on. So automatically, if there was a thief, then, they would not venture close if lights came on around them. So.
Right.
Or a teenager wanting to sneak in at night.
I believe burglar alarms work that way as well. I think they are put on the windows and which can be turned on even when after a certain hour.
They can be integrated with the automation. So
yeah,
it works.
I had a client, I had proposed a laminated glass as Nishita has, and he said, "Pura panel here. What if he takes the whole panel and goes?" Anyways, that's a conversation for some other time. But yeah. So good. Okay. So because security is a crucial factor here, especially, so we do a lot of second homes as well. And everyone, because people are not really, staying there, it's a weekend home at the end of the day. And security is a thing that we are also tackling as an issue in general and trying to come up with solutions. I think this laser would also work. I'm going to give that a shot. Thanks, Apurva. Right. So one thing is about the installation. Now that's for Nehal. Now, how, as someone was saying that installation is very important, the pre-installation phase that we need to take care of. So how do you go about in suggesting who installs the window? Because you all are just supplying it, right? So how do you guide the architects in that sense, or the designers?
We also have authorized partners who work with us. They have been trained with us on both fabrication as well as installation. And so they are the one. So first is, we do a site survey once the openings are ready to make sure, to take exact dimensions, because what also happens many times, the size on paper and the size on site tend to differ a little bit. So that's the first step we do to ensure that the installation is correct. We take sizes after the openings are ready. And, then a trained team of installers come and do the installation. And after the installation is done, there is another independent party, mostly, from our side, who again then come and do a quality check to ensure that the installer has done the work correctly. So these three things put together, training of the installer, a survey beforehand, and a quality check at the end, sort of make sure that the end product is aligned with, what was agreed beforehand, and, not something different.
Okay, so I'm actually through with the technical round. Now it's time for the fun round, quick fun round. If someone could tell me, any one of y'all could tell me some funny story, some experience that y'all have had with a client, a contractor, a vendor, anyone amongst your team regarding Windows as a subject? Any fun encounters?
I don't know if it was fun, but it was definitely very stressful for me. So we were doing this bungalow in Juhu, and we were installing, and this was like 10 years ago, okay, when these really high tall windows were not readily available in the market. It was a 20-foot high window. The glass was being flown in from Germany, right? And they were doing the installation. And there were 4 glasses because they were, for a living room and overlooking Juhu Beach. And the 4th one broke. Okay. And then it was whatever, handover time, right? So you have a limited amount of time now for this glass to be reflown from Germany and then get installed again. So I know, I think when they were installing it, I was sitting with my eyes and everything shut with my fingers crossed and praying in one corner like an India-Pakistan match, waiting to be told who won. Yeah, so
Okay,
that was
cool.
my story.
What about y'all? Any encounters of such stressful kind?
So
Yeah.
Go for it, Nishita, after you.
Yeah, so something very similar, it's because we're talking about glass and, she spoke about glass. So at one of these exhibitions, we had this big window installed with a laminated glass and, while doing the installation, it broke and, it's one night before it and there is not much we can do. So we installed it with the laminated glass and we started, showing everyone that, see, this is a security feature, the glass is broken, but it will not fall on anybody. So that was
You advertised for the glass company, in short.
Yeah, yeah. So it said that, you don't have to worry about grills because these laminated glass can be put on the windows.
Okay, cool. Okay, anyone else would like to share anything?
So we went, this is for Nehal especially. Please check everything in your experience center really well, because this happened to us with a client and we go to this really high-end window vendor and they make all sorts of claims of how easy the track is, and when the client actually tries to push the track himself, it's not moving. And I'm zapped because I took him there, and the vendor said that because so many people come and use this and it's opened every day and it's X number of years old, it's not working, but it's not a small thing, we can fix it. So the client, just tells him, that's my intention. If somebody or the other is going to use this window every day, and I want it to last for these X number of years, I don't want this. So that is something that at least make things in your experience center as big and span, so that people don't have these kind of experiences.
Definitely.
Okay, great. So I think that's about it for the time that we have, and actually I'm out of questions as well. So I think it was great chatting with all of y'all. Thank you very much for removing your valuable time, and we've been pondering on the right date to find where everyone was comfortable, and finally we've done it. So yeah, thank you once again, and hopefully we'll meet soon in person. Yeah, just reminds us of COVID times. So just in person. So yeah, we would do that soon as well. Yeah?
Thank you, Carl. It was super fun.
Thank you so much, Carl. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Well,
Bye.
Bye.
thank you. Bye-bye.